In this video, we'll be looking at creating and editing auto grouping rules. Grouping is one of the core mechanics used to manage reporting within Statseeker, and it allows you to view your network and its infrastructure by breaking down those components by type, speed, name, location, or any arbitrary association that will suit your requirements. With Statseeker Auto Grouping rules, you have the ability to automatically group devices and interfaces as they are discovered according to the rules you define through auto grouping. A standard Statseeker installation comes with default auto grouping rules, which upon discovery will group an interface according to speed and type. In addition to these default interface speed and type auto grouping rules, you're able to create your own auto grouping rules from within the admin tool, user profile and grouping, auto grouping. Click Add to create a new auto grouping rule, and it will display the auto grouping rule configuration panel. Specify a name for the rule and select the groups that we populated by the rule. You can create new groups. You can specify the rule to populate more than one group and select existing groups as well. In this instance, the AU routers rule will populate both the AU routers group and the AU hardware group according to the filters that will be specified within the rule. Next, you can select a group type. In this case, we'll use the device type. And I'll be setting the status of the rule to off to ensure that the rule is not run by a background process prior to being ready. I'll be specifying attribute filters, which will be used to populate the group. You can select device attributes as well as interface attributes based on the fact that we're running a device type group. So the initial filter that I'll be supplying is a device filter. I'll be using name and specifying RTR, router, and to account for case sensitivity, router again. I'll be adding another rule, and that'll again be a device attribute. I'll be using sysLocation and supplying a few sysLocations to be used for the AU routers. Once the filters have been configured, you can test the rule. This isn't running the rule and applying the changes, it's running the rule and presenting the changes as they would be applied. So no actual group population is being run right now. It's just giving you an idea of what's going to happen. Just to confirm that, we'll drop back into the NIM console and we can see that the AU routers group has not yet been created. Returning to the config screen and selecting Run Now. The grouping rule will run, the group will be created, and both AU routers and AU hardware will be populated with devices that satisfy the filters that we specified in the configuration screen. All of those devices will already exist in the AU hardware group, but as you can see now the AU routers group has been created and confirmed that it has been populated. We can just run a report against it and see that the report features devices satisfying both the sysLocation rule and the naming convention. I'll return to the auto grouping rule configuration screen, set the status of the rule to on. Once the status has been set to on and the rule has been saved, the rule will be utilized by both the discovery process and the daily rewalk for adding devices to groups based on the filters defined in the rule and updating the contents of those groups based on the filters defined in the rule if any configuration details change on a device which is already in the group. There are a range of options in the configuration screen which we didn't cover on the initial run through, so I'll just edit this rule so we can have a closer look at some of those. The clear option is useful when you are updating the filters that define what devices or interfaces go into a group. By selecting the clear option, before the rule is run, the contents of the group are removed and then the group is repopulated according to the updated rule. In the filter section, the no group option restricts any group members to those which are not currently resident in another group. The group filter is the converse of that. By selecting it, you are restricting all potential group members to those already found in another group or selection of groups. When we specified the attribute filters for both name and syslocation, I was providing multiple values. The configuration screen doesn't allow multiple filters using the same key. In this case, you could not have two filters based on name or syslocation, so instead I used a regex expression with the pipe character to define an OR operator between the different values for that filter. When selecting the attribute filters, you may remember that we had the option of either a device filter or an interface filter. If we had selected one of the interface filters, because we had a group type which was device, the rule would have populated the group with devices that had an interface which satisfied the interface attribute filter. And in the same way, if we had a group type which was interface, but we had specified device attributes in the filters, the rule would populate the interface group with those interfaces belonging to the devices that satisfied the filters. Filters can be removed by clicking the delete button, and all existing filters are treated as if there was an AND operator between them. In order for a group to be populated, the entities populating that group need to satisfy every filter supplied in the filters section. One of the filter options available under device filters is IP address, and this filter will take an IP address or range in the same format as when you supply it for device discovery. This would be an include or exclude directive accompanied by an IP range or a wildcard. And again, if you do specify additional attribute filters, they are treated as if AND operators were between them, and all filters must be satisfied in order for an entity to be considered to be valid to populate the group. I'll just quickly jump to another server where we've got a range of auto grouping rules already configured. As you can see here, there's quite a number of auto grouping rules in play at the moment. When discovery or a daily rewalk is run and the auto grouping rules are put into effect, they are actually applied to the results of that discovery from the top of the list down. The order of the auto grouping rules in the list should be considered when you are applying either a no group filter or a group filter, since the no group filter will only consider entities not already residing in a group, and the group filter will only consider entities residing in a nominated group or selection of groups. Okay, so that's a brief overview of auto grouping rules within Statseeker. More details on the material covered here can be found on the Statseeker website under documentation. And if you'd like additional assistance with anything that we've covered here and how it might be applied to your specific circumstances, then please don't hesitate to contact Statseeker support, and we'd be more than happy to provide whatever assistance we can.